Okay, so welcome to episode number 13 of Life Without Cravings. So in this episode, I'm going to tell you about why I think that keto treats and food substitutes might not be your best friend if you want to be on a low-carb diet. So some of you who have been following me for quite some time, listening and watching to my stuff, you might have heard this before, and that's fine. But I wanted to talk about it again because what I really want to make sure that you understand is that this is super important. So the first time I went keto, I did it with real food because I didn't even know about the keto treats, etc. And I don't think there were too many at the time because this was probably 20 years ago and I lived in Sweden. They're a little bit behind the Americans in that regard. And I cooked myself a couple of burger patties. And I made a green pepper sauce with a lot of cream, and I had a little bit of lettuce with that. And I remember thinking, like, this isn't so bad. This tastes really nice. But at the same time, I was in mental agony because my brain was sort of panicking. It was not convinced that eating a lot of fat, especially saturated fat, was a good idea. Because I have heard that so many times. Rationally, I knew that it was completely okay to eat that way. But my primitive part of the brain didn't really want to listen to that because it was telling me that if it was okay to do that, why would everyone say that it isn't? Maybe there is something to it and maybe you're doing harm to yourself. So I was kind of like, ugh, this is really scary. But anyhow, to be honest, if I'm thinking back, is like the amount of fat that was in that meal was probably not that much. And considering what I'm eating now, which is a very high fat diet, I think maybe it was just like 60% fat or something. So it is a little bit silly when I think back to it, but I actually got like phantom pain in my heart, and I was like, oh my god, it's clogging my arteries and I'm gonna die at the tender age of 25 or something. It was all mental, like that fear was all in my head. But anyhow, a few years later is probably when I first discovered low carb treats, and I was trying all sorts of things. And the worst thing I ever tried was probably like the avocado chocolate mousse. I know some people are going to say, but that is actually really nice. But it's horrible. It was horrible for me anyway. Maybe the avocado wasn't great. Maybe, you know, I'm very picky with my food. So if they're not like perfectly ripe, if they're a bit overripe, I don't really like them. But I just thought that was awful. I had 2 spoons. First spoon was just like, whoa, that was awful. Let's try one more. And then I decided that I really cannot eat this. This is not going to happen. So I've never touched that again. But this is where my keto journey started. And I ate lots of, almond flour, coconut flour. I made almond flour pancakes, almond flour brownies, keto, blueberry crumbles with almond flour. What else? Yeah, I even made cookies from almond flour, and they weren't actually that bad. Another thing I don't recommend though is to make an almond flour base for your pizza. That's not good. I didn't buy many keto treats. I don't think I've ever done that. I always made my own stuff, and that probably comes from, first of all, I like cooking and baking. And secondly, I like knowing what's in the food that I'm eating so that there aren't a lot of numbers that I have no idea what they are, or secret ingredients and other things that probably aren't very good for my body. So it's a little bit of both. Like I want to have control over what's in my food because I've always been very health conscious, but also, just having it available all the time. I'm whispering now, which is quite funny. Anyhow, because if I can make treats that are low carb, then there is nothing wrong with eating them anymore. That was my thinking. So if I'm doing this, then I can eat as much as I want of it because there's no problem with doing that, right? And this just became my way of eating for many years. So in addition to these, you know, eating these keto treats, I would just start slowly, not even slowly, probably quite quickly, building up this longing for real sugar. Because the cravings I had wasn't for keto treats. My cravings were specifically for sugar in real treats. And I've always been like, sugar, if it tastes sweet, I'm good to go. I don't really care. Obviously, I have a preference. I like some things better than others. But when I have a craving, anything goes. Anything that has sugar in it, it just goes. It's fine. I'll take it. I can even eat brown sugar with a spoon and enjoy it. I probably wouldn't go to white sugar, but who knows? Thankfully, it has never gone that far. So, if I'm going to be completely honest, the keto treats that I made, they were mostly okay, but they weren't that really nice. Like, they didn't taste that good. If you compare a keto brownie with a real brownie with, you know, real sugar and real flour, it's like, why would I even taste the keto brownie? It's not going to taste good if you compare the two. And my brain wanted the sugar. It didn't want the sweetness and the bloody almond flour that I didn't really like. So eventually I would just get so fed up with it and have that pressure build up for such a long time that I would just decide, okay, I'm going to have a cheat day tomorrow, and I would go to the shops and I would buy all the things. And I'm not joking, like all the things. I would have ice cream and cookies and cakes and probably buy savory things as well. I'm not really into the savory carbs, but I would probably buy chips, and sometimes there would be pizza as well. And I wasn't even craving those things. It was the sugar that I was craving. But my thinking was like, okay, if I'm going to have a cheat day, I'm really going to enjoy all the things. And I don't want to sit in the evening and feel like, I really want some chips and not have it, because this was my day when I got to choose everything that I wanted. So naturally, I wouldn't be able to eat all of this in one evening. So it would become at least 2 days of just eating this. Sometimes 3 if I had bought enough. And then you have the, you know, the chips and the pizza and whatever that I don't really like that much. And I would just kind of force eat it on day 3 because it was there. Complete madness. But hey, that's how you go. Or how I went anyway. So there are so many problems with this way of eating. And I already talked about this from a different aspect in episode number 8, when I talk about that cravings suck and the mistakes that I made when I was low carb. But the specific problem I want to focus on today is obviously the substitution part. And this is a really well-known phenomenon. When someone tries to quit anything that they're addicted to, they will want to substitute. And there are so many. If you go and Google, like, how do I quit this? And they're like, substitute with that, find some good low carb treats, or start chewing gum, or whatever it is. It's like we have to satisfy that craving to be able to quit. And that's not what I'm teaching. I'm teaching you to not even have those cravings anymore. We want to lower the desire for those things so that it's not even a problem. Because when you're substituting, you're just doing the same thing but with a different substance. So someone who quits alcohol might start smoking instead. And then someone else who stops smoking, they might start eating sugar. So every time they want a cigarette, they just put something sweet in their mouth to distract themselves and get a little bit of dopamine happening so that it feels better for them. So you can quit your particular poison, but then you substitute that with another poison. So the only real benefit of doing this is that your new addiction might not be as detrimental to your body as the bad one was. Maybe, depending on what you're doing. Shifting smoking for sugar is like your lungs are going to feel better, but your whole body is going to feel worse. So which one is worse? I don't know. I don't think any of them are worth doing. And when I say like worse, it's also worse because you are now having 2 addictions to deal with. Before you just had 1, now you have 2. So you're going to have more triggers. Because if your only triggers were like, oh, if I'm around other people, or if I'm out, you know, drinking or whatever, then it's really, really hard to not smoke. But now you included food in that, and you have food triggers all over the place, because we are allowed to have commercials for food and we can do it wherever we want. And it's really, really tempting. So that's even worse. You're going to have more triggers. So you're just making it a lot harder for yourself. And then you have literally two neural pathways, two different ones. Obviously, it's going to be so much easier for you to do either of them. And some of you might think, okay, no problem, I'm fine with that. I'm cool with, I managed to stop eating sugar and I'm cool with having my keto treats. What's the problem? So here's the crux. First of all, you will most likely become addicted to low-carb treats. And if you're not, I was never addicted to them. But if you're not, you're probably going to do some version of what I did. Like build up that pressure because you're not satisfying the craving. And eventually you're just going to have to release that pressure and go and eat. And the binges are probably going to be a lot worse than they used to be. But you might still think like, well, actually, it's an okay trade-off. I'm willing to make that sacrifice. Because if I can be not eating a lot of sugar most of the time, I'm cool with having, you know, one cheat day every now and then. But secondly, this is actually a bit more concerning. When you crave sugar, and real sugar is the only thing that can satisfy that craving. Nothing else that you do can fully take away that craving because you're not giving your body what you think that it craves. So in a very similar way to how you build up tolerance for sugar when you just need more and more to feel the same pleasure every time you eat it, you're most likely going to start to overeat the keto treats. So from maybe having been able to, you know, put a lid on it and just eat a little bit here and there, now you're going to try to eat more and more because your brain is going to tell you that we're still not satisfied. You haven't managed to do it. We're really full and we can't physically eat anymore, but we still want something. You're still going to have those cravings and you're going to want to eat more, whether you want to do it or not. But that is not, I mean, the whole reason that you're here probably is that you want to get rid of the cravings, and this doesn't help you to do that at all. It just reinforces it and keeps those cravings around, probably a lot more than if you were able to eat just a little bit of sugar here and there. And if you are overeating keto treats, and especially if there are, you know, if there is a lot of almond flour in, you're probably going to cause a lot of inflammation in your body. And some sweeteners might do that as well. Now, if I'm making my own, I know which sweeteners I put in. I might be okay. But if you go and buy like low-carb bars, etc., do you even look at what sweeteners are in there? And do you know how they affect you? Maybe, maybe not. Everyone's different. So depending on why you want to eat this way in the first place, it's very likely going to work against your goals because you're going to want to overeat in some way. And that's never a good thing. And also, you might not even have considered this, you know, the addiction in itself is like a problem. And that might not really have occurred to you. When I say it, you're like, yeah, of course it is. But our focus is usually not there. So if you're going to be like completely honest with yourself, how much of your time do you spend like thinking about food, thinking about when to go and get food, thinking about what to get, how much you're going to eat of something, what things you want to get, anything. Like how much of your time do you spend thinking about those things? I used to spend a lot of time doing that. And I would always know what I was going to cook for dinner. And it's like just even that, which wasn't, I was never eating just sugar for dinner. I would eat normal food for dinner. But then I know that I would get cravings to get something after. And I wouldn't plan for that because every day I told myself, well, I don't have to do that today. Until I was there, then I had to do it. But everything was about food. And I think I was thinking that if I can just like eat until I'm full and I'm eating good food, then I will not feel the cravings. It didn't work. So just to have a look at, you know, how much of your time do you spend there, like thinking about those things? And I bet it's a lot. So when I was addicted, I would wake up in the morning and I would straight away think about what I was going to eat, and then I start thinking about the treats and like, well, I probably shouldn't have it, you know, go back and forth and thinking that when am I going to stop doing that? Or sometimes I would think, okay, I'm going to get one chocolate bar today and I'm going to eat half of it today and the other half tomorrow. As if that never worked. And then think about, yeah, I really need that. And it's always about the food and justifying all the reasons for why I should have that sugar. That's where my brain was, probably way too much. Like, I probably shouldn't tell my ex-employers, how much I was thinking about food. That obviously takes it away from me being able to focus on anything, including work. So when you stop that cycle, your brain is going to go quiet all of a sudden, and you're going to be surprised. And some people think that this feels really uncomfortable, like what's happening, and then they will want to start thinking about food again, because that's what we used to do it. And I just want to say, like, the beauty of that, the quietness in your mind, is that you get to fill that with whatever thoughts that you want. You always have a choice here, like, you can decide what you want to focus on, and that is so much more fun. Like, it's quiet now, what am I going to do? Oh, maybe I should think about my future. I like doing that. I like thinking about what I want to create and where I want to live and what I want my life to look like in the future. I really, really like being in that space. And I'm thinking about it most days. It's like the fuel for my fire. And that just keeps me in a positive mindset. Like, if I continue doing this, if I continue to work towards this, I'm going to get it at some point. I'm not there, but I don't need to be there. Just thinking about it makes me feel good. Rather than the food, it never made me feel good thinking about it. It was always tainted with guilt or shame or something other negative, because I didn't want to do it, but I knew that I was going to. So whenever I'm coaching a client and we're past the cravings, so that's no longer a problem, they know how to handle that, and they start to feel like they're in control, we just start exploring, like, what else is there? So I don't know what this is for you. That's something that you have to kind of explore for yourself. But find something that motivates you, that you can fill the space with. And it's important that you have it, like, beforehand. Use that as a motivation, and when the cravings are starting to go away, you know exactly what to fill that void with. And that could just be more of those dreams. More of anything that makes you feel good. I don't care what it is, as long as it makes you feel good. And then you just get to work. And all of a sudden, the energy that you previously just spent on food, now you're spending it on thinking about how to create the future that you want. And that's exciting, at least for me. And this is when it gets, it's really exciting, actually. You're going to feel like you're on top of the world, like you can do anything. And you're not wrong. When you can direct your brain where you want it to go, you get to choose. Like, there is nothing that you can't pursue. And that's magic. So what I really want you to take away from this podcast this week is that when you substitute real sugar for sugar substitute, you're literally swapping one addiction for another, and you avoid addressing the root cause. So that's one of the things. Another thing is that you continue to chase that dragon. You just want that high. You want to satisfy the craving. And as a result of that, you might actually do more harm than good to your health, even though you're trying to do good by being low carb. And the last thing is that you're not allowing yourself to be true to yourself. And what I mean with this is, by you not going after your dreams, you are literally blocking yourself from living the way that you want to live. And you will not be able to do this as long as you're being addicted to food or sugar. Because that is going to take up all your brain space. There is not going to be any additional brain space for you to actually focus on these things. And you deserve better. We're not on earth to be living in the shadow of the carbs. Like, you deserve to be happy and to be living the life that you want to live, and not having your life dictated by carbs. That's not really living, in my opinion. So you just have to choose it, and it's always available to you. Always. But you need to decide. And indecision is probably one of your biggest enemies, because you might be too scared to decide that you're really gonna do it. And if you need support, I can help you. So there's several ways that you can connect with me. So one of them is that you can join the Facebook group called Life Beyond Cravings for Kick-Ass Ketovores. Another way is that you can just join our next challenge. I'm running challenges regularly. It will probably happen next month now, because we're already doing one. And just keep an eye here, or join the Facebook group. I will announce it there as well. Or if you know that you're all in and you really want to make this happen, and you want it to happen very quickly, then you can just contact me and we can talk about it and see. I have a program. It's a 6-month program. I'm working one-on-one with people. I'm calling it Quitting for the Last Time. I will just teach you how to lower the desire, and we will go through pretty much everything that I've spoken about in this episode, but a lot more on top of that. So if that's something that you're interested in, just send me an email and we can talk about it. We can set up a consult and have a little chat about it to see if it's the right thing for you to do or not. So there is help and there is support, and there are options for everyone who wants to quit. You just have to do it. Like, it's there. If you don't do it, you're not going to get the results. But I'm there. I have several options for you. The majority of the options don't even cost you anything other than time and investment in yourself and the commitment that you have to make to yourself. So don't be a stranger. Like, just make this happen, because we only have one life, and I don't want to waste my life. I really want to live my life, and I think that most of you would agree with that. It's just like daring to take that step and actually making it happen. So until the next time, make a decision with anything, but make a decision to get off the carbs, because that is going to help you massively. And I will see you then. Bye.